Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Job Picks. The other half of the show, the parlay, joining me in to break down some UFC Vegas 79. Let's get into it. Coming off Noche UFC in Las Vegas. We're staying there, but we're going to the Apex. We got 11 fights to break down here. Fiziev, Gamrot in the main event. What do you think of the card overall?
Yeah, the one thing I did notice about this card when I'm looking at stats and doing my research and everything is there's a lot of fighters on losing streaks on this card. So I'm not sure what we're going to get. We got a lot of guys who desperately need wins. I think that could make for some decent fights and some aggressive fighters, guys that got a point to prove. Maybe we'll get a little bit more action than we normally do. So you never know. But all in all, some decent matchups. Not the best card, not the worst card. But yeah, some underdog money out there, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, for an Apex card, I mean, it's pretty solid. I mean, I wouldn't it's a good main event, good co-main event. Even the main card, you're not getting like any just god-awful fighters on like the main card. So I think it's a decent card. And in the Apex smaller cage, they usually got to fight. And they will definitely do that this Saturday. Looking forward to it. We're going to break them down one by one here and give you a little give you our thoughts and our predictions or our picks here. But if you want the bets, you can join the Double Leg Premium. The link is in the description. Gets you every single UFC card every week for less than $1 a day. Those are our official bets in there. They're usually finalized Friday. If you just want the bets for this week, they'll be available for instant download there on Friday. Just stay tuned at the Double Leg on IG, and you will be notified then. But let's get into it. Don't want to waste any more of your time. Started with the main event, a lightweight bout. Rafael Fiziev coming in at minus 150 against Mateusz Gamrot, sitting at plus 120. Over-under, 4.5 rounds, minus 105 for the over, minus 125 for the under. Rafael Fiziev, 4-1 in his last 5. He was on the run, lost to Gaethje his last time out at UFC 286 in London in a fight that was a close fight. I mean, he really could have arguably won it. I do think Gaethje was the rightful winner, but it was a close fight. Mateusz Gamrot, his last time out was against Jalen Turner. That was a short notice fight. He won a split decision there and took him down and was able to hold him there and won the fight that way. This one, it's a striker versus grappler matchup. As we all know, Fiziev got that great Muay Thai. Mateusz Gamrot got that great wrestling. And we'll see which style prevails. But which style do you think does it in this one?
Man, right now I'm leaning Rafael Fiziev, and for a couple of reasons. I mean, you look at Fiziev, you mentioned Justin Gaethje fight was super close. I mean, Gaethje just knocked out Dustin Poirier. He's right at the top of the division. I mean, if that's Fiziev winning that fight, Fiziev's right in the mix for, next title shot after Charles and Islam square off in October. So he's a top level fighter, and his takedown defense is good, and he's going to need it in this fight. He's got a 90% takedown defense in the UFC, and he's fighting guys like Rafael dos Anjos, guys like that, Renato Moicano, who's got good grappling, and even Justin Gaethje took him down, but I think that one was a little more unexpected on Fiziev's side. But he's shown that if he keeps you on the feet with him, he's going to be in there, and he'll make it close with any of the best strikers in the division. I like Gamrot's relentlessness and his ability to get fights to the mat and how good he is in the scrambles and how good he is on top on the ground. Like, the guy is extremely high level in that department. We saw it against Arman Tsarukyan. He got the win in that fight. I don't know if I thought Tsarukyan had a good chance to get his name called. It was unanimous. But all in all, I think Gamrot in that fight showed how high level he is with his wrestling and his grappling and just overall knowledge and IQ on the mat. Like, he's so good in the scramble. It's almost fun to watch when he's fighting another grappler. However, here, if he can't get the takedowns against Fiziev, I think he gets picked apart. I mean, Fiziev's got some nasty striking, the body kicks, leg kicks. I mean, he hits hard as well. We saw it against Dos Anjos. And if this is a 5-round fight too, so if Gamrot does have success early and lands a few takedowns, but as it goes on, starts slowing down a little bit, I don't think Fiziev's slowing down. I think he's going to be in there in your face striking the whole time. So if this thing, which I expect it to, goes past a couple of rounds, I think Fiziev has the ability to really turn it on and do something big in the last 3 rounds. And I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes him, but also I'm thinking this thing probably goes all 5. So, and if you're looking at damage and stuff, this is the perfect candidate. Fiziev's going to do damage, and Gamrot's probably going to be looking to get the takedowns the whole fight. So it just depends what judges are in there as well. But for me, I'm on Rafael Fiziev. I do like him as a fighter. I like Gamrot as well. I got to go with the guy who's going to inflict more damage here.
Yeah, I've never been a big Gamrot guy. I do respect his game because it is very effective, but it's not really a style that I think fans are going to be like, this guy is really fun to watch, because you watch him fight against Jalen Turner. Like, guy was holding on for dear life. And I thought Jalen Turner won the fight. Clearly did more damage, had a knockdown. And it was just Gamrot, when he gets you down, he just doesn't really do any damage. Like, when he has you down, especially at this level, like, he's able to inflict some damage at the lower level or even strike with guys at the lower level. It's not like he's been fighting at the low level. Like, he came into the UFC fighting Guram, lost to him there. But he just doesn't have the stand-up game to really stand with anyone in the top 10, top 5, anything like that. So that's concerning. And you also take in the fact that he's been knocked down 4 times in the UFC. Like, he's been knocked down in each of his last 3 fights. Granted, he won 2 of those, so he's able to come back and battle through it. But the guy shoots. He will not stop shooting. Relentlessness is there. Like you said, 31% takedown accuracy, though. That's not always like the greatest thing to look at. You got to take into account he shoots a lot, but he's not getting them a lot. I mean, we're using a lot of energy there. 90% takedown defense for Fiziev. And I think it really just comes down to damage. Like you said, I would expect Fiziev to do the more damage. The way that they've been judging fights really just comes down to that. It seems like nowadays, judging, if you get a guy down and you don't land a significant strike or do anything on top, it's like it didn't even happen. So if Fiziev does find his way on his back, you just got to not take damage, work the way up to the feet, even if it takes him, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, just get back up to the feet and land some good shots. I think in the clinch, Fiziev's super good with the knees, getting that tie clinch, should be able to pull off the victory here. And we've seen him in a 5-rounder before against RDA, who shot a bunch of times, 16 to be exact. I do think Gamrot's probably a little bit better of a wrestler than RDA. RDA is good, though, but I think Gamrot's probably a little bit better. And Fiziev was able to knock him out in round 5. So, I mean, he showed he's still got some power going into the championship round. So he's going to be my pick. But it's a good fight. It's a good fight.
Yeah. And I mean, the last thing I'll say too is Fiziev's got that style, and you saw it against Rafael dos Anjos, is even if guys do want to kind of stand and strike with him, he rips the body so hard, and he comes upstairs and he does a lot of damage to where these guys have no choice but to spam the takedowns and wrestling. Like, he gives you no choice when you stand and bang with him. So I think it's going to be all the same here. And eventually, like we saw in the RDA fight, if you can't get those takedowns and the fight goes on and you're tired, like, he's going to find the chin. And when you're tired and you get hit by Fiziev, a lot of these guys are going down, and I could see that happening here as well. I'll probably be playing, round 4, round 5 finish for Fiziev in this fight.
Yeah, watching Fiziev against Gaethje, it was clear like Fiziev's got a real speed advantage early in the fight too. So I honestly think he could finish him early if he's got that explosiveness and he doesn't really try to pace himself. But I do think with 5 rounds he'll try to fight a little bit smart, and so he can go the full 5. So. But yeah, he's the pick. Co-main event, Dan Ige coming in at plus 165 against Bryce Mitchell, sitting at minus 200, over under 2.5 rounds, minus 215 for the over, plus 175 for the under. Dan Ige coming in here 2-3 in his last 5. He's got back-to-back wins, 3 straight wins actually. No, 2 straight wins. My bad. Nate Landwehr win in UFC 289 in Canada, decision win, nearly had him knocked out in the second, and then a second-round knockout against Damon Jackson. Before that, losses to Evloev, Emmett, and the Korean Zombie. So he's back on track after a tough little streak for him. Bryce Mitchell coming off his first professional loss against Ilia Topuria. We were expecting him to fight earlier this year, and it didn't come to fruition. He was supposed to fight Jonathan Pierce, then he was supposed to fight Movsar Evloev, and then had to pull out of that. So he's finally getting his shot here. Hopefully he can make it to the fight. Should be a fun one here. It's a good test for both guys because Bryce is got to show his abilities on the feet, and Dan Ige got to prove once again like he can handle a wrestler. So I'm interested to see how this one plans out. What are you thinking?
Yeah, the one thing that scares me for Dan Ige, like obviously if this thing stays on the feet, Ige is going to have the advantage. But you look at the Movsar Evloev fight, and he got taken down 9 times and just dominated and, lost that fight. And I could see a world where it looks similar to that fight against Bryce Mitchell, because when Mitchell's on, his grappling's phenomenal. Like the guy he's relentless as well. He's strong. He gets guys down. And when he gets you down, like he is really, really good with the ground game and the jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's got one of the only twisters in UFC history alongside now Damon Blackshear and the Korean Zombie. But on the feet, I think we saw it against Topuria that he can struggle with some higher level strikers. Now, the one thing you have to think of really is, Dan Ige's not Ilia Topuria by any means at all, but Dan Ige does possess power, and he can find the chin, and he is really slick with his combinations, and he will work the body well as well. But again, if Bryce Mitchell comes in here healthy, a lot rumors of him injured in his last fight against Topuria, rumored of like a slip disc in his back or something like that over the winter. So if he's healed from that and he comes in 100% and he sticks to the game plan of trying to get Dan Ige down, I think he could find success. Ige's takedown defense, only 56%. Bryce Mitchell's, 44% accuracy, averages 3.26 per fight. So I do think it could hit the mat early at some point. We'll see what Bryce can do with it. But if Bryce for some reason can't get the takedowns and he gets a little bit tired here, I think Ige could tune him up and find the chin. For the pick, I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell. I think he's going to come in healthy and more motivated here. I'm taking a little bit of a risk. I know he's the favorite, and I think betting wise, there could be value on Dan Ige. But for the pick, I think we're going to see a decent version of Bryce Mitchell. Might be a little buy low spot on him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking coming into this one, because a loss to Topuria isn't really the worst thing. I mean, I know it was a fight where you're kind of expecting a closer fight, and he kind of got his butt whooped. But I mean, before that, I mean, he's taken down Edson Barbosa 4 times, like completely handling Edson Barbosa, handling Andre Fili. Like those are 2 pretty tough guys. And then the fight against Topuria, I think, just wiped everything clean between what people see of him. As for Dan Ige, on 2-fight win streak. The opponents are solid. Damon Jackson's solid. Just can't really take a punch that well. Nate Landwehr, solid, but he's got to be able to like break you. He's got to be able to outwork you. Dan Ige has never been finished. He's going to be there for all 3 rounds. Like that's just not really a good matchup for Nate Landwehr. And Ige was able to take advantage of it. His career statistics, 56% takedown defense. Like you said, taken down a bunch of times by Evloev, even the Korean Zombie. It's going to be a tale of like how his takedown defense looks, really. I do think Bryce Mitchell will look better on the feet than he did against Topuria. Not that it was like terrible. What it really got him in trouble in that fight was like he got a takedown on Topuria. The only guy that's been able to take down Topuria is Bryce Mitchell. But then Topuria has such a good ground game. He was like, I can't deal with this guy on the ground. Like I can't just manhandle him like I've been doing to these other guys. I think that was a big wake-up call for him. And I don't think Dan Ige is going to possess that in this one. I do lean Bryce Mitchell, but I don't know if I could get behind -200 because
Right.
Dan Ige is tough. Like I said, he's never been finished. He could lose a decision here by just being on his back, but that's kind of been his problem in a lot of these fights. So I do think he's probably worked on that a ton, trains at a good camp or a good gym in an Extreme Couture, got a good coach, Eric Nixick. So I'd expect him to come in here with a good game plan and probably make it a close fight. So to me, I think it's probably dog or pass. I don't think I want to lay -200 on Bryce Mitchell. Just I want to see how he bounces back from this one. for the pick. I'll take him for the pick, but I'm just not laying the chalk on him like that. Strawweight bout, Michelle Waterson-Gomez coming in at plus 225 against Marina Rodriguez. Sit at minus 285. Over under 2.5 rounds. Minus 350 for the over. Plus 250 for the under. The rematch that not many people asked for, but we're getting it. Marina Rodriguez, she's been on a little 2-fight skid here. She was, pretty dang close to a title shot. Now she finds herself on a 2-fight losing streak. And Michelle Waterson, as you see there, 1-4 in her last 5. She's been around for a long time, but she has not been finding the win column that often either. So something's got to give here. One person's got to get a win. Vernon Jandiroba was able to take down Marina Rodriguez with ease, hold her there, and win that way. And then she had a loss to Amanda Lemos. But before that, 4-fight win streak. Waterson-Gomez was in there at May of 2021. For Michelle Waterson, a close fighter last time out against Pinheiro at UFC 287. I figured it was going to be a close fight, a stand-up fight. Could have went either way. Pinheiro gets the call. So now she is 1-5 in her last 6. So she is 37 years old of age. She's a big dog here, but I don't know if I could lay the chalk on Marina Rodriguez, considering Michelle Waterson usually finds herself in pretty close fights, and this is probably a stand-up fight. Both ladies probably want to keep it on the feet. Waterson could mix in the takedowns and make it greasy. It's a women's MMA fight, strawweight bout. I'm not really liking the big chalk on Rodriguez, but I do think she's probably got the better chance at winning. So what are you thinking on this one?
Michelle Waterson has to wrestle. She has to wrestle. It was proven in their first fight between these two that Rodriguez is going to be better on the feet. I think the accuracy is better with Rodriguez. The volume is better. Michelle Waterson has decent striking, but she's got a negative striking differential. She's not the most volume, or she doesn't have the best volume, and in return, she's getting hit by a lot of girls. Now, takedown wise, you wouldn't think she's going to go out there and just have a wrestling heavy game plan. But if you look at her UFC fights, she's landed a takedown in every single one besides Felice Herrig, and that was in 2018. And she even took down Rodriguez in their first fight. And I think in a 3-round fight, she's got a better chance here against Marina Rodriguez than she did in a 5-round fight, because you just got to get a couple takedowns in round 1 or 2, win the rounds, and then just don't get finished. And but easier said than done. Marina Rodriguez in her last fight against Jandiroba was taken down, like you said, pretty easily. So it kind of gives you a slimmer of hope there for Michelle Waterson. But Waterson's getting up there with age too. She's been around a while, not as active as she used to be. Like you mentioned, 1-5 or 1-6 in her last however many fights, and that could very well be 0-6. She won a split decision over Angela Hill that was a really, really close fight. So she could be on a massive losing streak. And if she would have lost to Hill, maybe she wouldn't even be in the UFC anymore. But I do have to stick with Marina Rodriguez here. I think that the striking, she'll be landing the more volume. It'll look better to the judges. I think if she can stuff takedowns, she'll run away with this thing. But for Waterson, if you're taking her as a dog, I don't know if it's the worst play in the world, because she has proven she can at least take her down. She's going to have to do it way earlier in this fight. And just steal a couple rounds. I don't think either girl's getting a finish here, but for the pick, it's going to be Rodriguez.
Yeah, she's going to be my pick too, but I don't like it, man.
No, not confident.
Not at all. The wins, she went on the 4-fight win streak. But other than that, losses to Lemos, Jandiroba, Esparza, draw to Cynthia Calvillo, draw to Randa Marcos. I don't know, man. She's not any spring chicken either. She's 36 years of age. It's going to be very subjective. That's really what I think it comes down to. That's why I'm scared of the price. It's just going to be very subjective, close fight. But she'll be my pick. She should get the win. I think she's got better striking with her hands. Waterson-Gomez probably going to be using that kick a lot in her arsenal. And she's got to mix in a takedown at least, give the judges something else to think about. And Rodriguez's takedown defense has always been a liability. So she's got to use that to try to get a victory here. Rodriguez will be the pick, though.
Sir, for sneakiest play so far, the card that might be on my betting card would be Michelle Waterson by split decision. If you can find that line anywhere, because it's going to be somewhat juicy, I imagine. Both girls have that style that they go to a lot of split decisions. So I keep an eye on it.
I like it. Welterweight bout here. Brian Battle coming in at -175 against AJ Fletcher, sitting at +145, over under 1.5 rounds, -220 for the over, +180 for the under. Brian Battle, 4-1 in his last 5, and he's looked pretty dang good at welterweight, 3-2 in AJ Fletcher's last 5. Picked up his first win his last time out in the UFC, and that was against Temba Garimbo. Got a second-round guillotine choke, but before that, losses to Angelosa and Matthew Semmelsberger in the UFC. Brian Battle, we know him for being on the Ultimate Fighter and then moving down to 170 after finding himself in the UFC. Only loss in the UFC is Renat Fakhretdinov, and he got absolutely smoked, as most people will, with Renat Fakhretdinov, who looks pretty dangerous. So 4-1 in the UFC. I'm kind of surprised by the line, honestly. I thought Brian Battle might be, -200, a little bit higher. But granted, his wins aren't like over anybody great. Like Gabe Green, missed weight for that one. Takashi Sato, Trayshawn Gore, Gilbert Urbina. It's not like anything crazy, but they're wins. He's 4-1. Can't take that away from him. I do think Fletcher probably had the tougher fights off the bat, but I like Brian Battle. He's got a good submission game. It's just the takedown defense is a liability. He's got good striking. Fletcher, I would expect to at least mix in the takedowns here. He's got to, because I think he's a 155. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's 5'10". I think that's pretty generous. He's a pretty thick dude. So I don't know. Maybe in the future he moves down to 155. I don't know what he walks around at, but he always looks pretty short in there when he's ever at welterweight. So I think he's got to mix in the takedowns here. But he only averages 1.92. He gets a couple here and there. We'll see. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I think this is Brian Battle all day. And I was able to get him already at -170. I think that line grows. I think he closes the week at -225, -250 in that range. I really do. I think a lot of people are not looking at that. Brian Battle's got a 10-inch reach advantage here. Like he's going to be way longer. It's going to be kind of hard for AJ Fletcher to get in close to him, I think. I mean, Brian Battle's also a dude that has probably been working on all of the holes in his game. I mean, he lost to Fakhretdinov badly over the course of 3 rounds. I think that's what he's probably been working on, his takedown defense. I think the striking is there. We've seen it, against Gabe Green. Gabe Green rushed in and Brian Battle made him pay. I think it's sharp. It's accurate. Takashi Sato stood there and he set up the head kick beautifully and knocked him out. Beats Trayshawn Gore, who likes to go in and wrestle at times. So maybe that's a little telltale sign of what could happen in this fight. AJ Fletcher, too, against Angelosa, kind of slowed down there towards the end of the fight. And if he does that against Battle, I think Battle's got good cardio. I think Battle could pick him apart, work the body, and really take some of the power and explosiveness out of AJ Fletcher early, and then run away with this victory. I just that 10-inch reach advantage, man. When you're a grappler trying to get in close, and you got to worry about a guy like Battle using his jab to keep you off of him, that kick up the middle of the body kicks, and then coming upstairs with the head kick. Just a lot to worry about if you're AJ Fletcher. So for me, -170 is what I got him at. I sent it to the Discord earlier today. I'm sticking with it, man. I'm picking Brian Battle, and I think he gets the dub.
Yeah, Fletcher. Even against Temba Garimbo, like Temba was looking pretty good against him until he got caught in that guillotine. So I don't know. I mean, Fletcher, he looks like he's making some improvements, but I don't know if it's enough to take down Brian Battle. And Brian Battle's going to be the pick for me. Like you said, big reach advantage. And I do expect him to probably have working the kicks and just stay long. And he could even use his own offensive wrestling because AJ Fletcher has like 28% takedown defense. He's not exactly the hardest guy to take down either. I'm going to go with Brian Battle. Featherweight bout here. Ricardo Ramos coming at +115 against Charles Jourdain, sitting at -145. Over under 2.5 rounds, -135 for the over, +105 for the under. Should be a good scrap here. Hopefully Ricardo Ramos makes weight. Last time he came in at 154 for a featherweight bout, and that one had to get scrapped. So cross your fingers that he makes it to 146 at the highest. And Charles Jourdain coming off the win against Kron Gracie. Was a good bounce back win for him. He was on a 2-fight losing streak. And that was, I would say, a smart performance for him. A very smart performance, because we kind of know him to be a wild fighter. He kind of locked it in for that one. He knew he didn't want to go to the ground with Kron. And it was a good maturity fight for him, I think. So going into this one against Ramos, who kind of fights wild like we know Jourdain to, I'm interested to see how he does. If he fights wild again, or if he's, trying to stay a little bit more calm and not get caught with anything. But he's a dog. Ricardo Ramos is fun to watch. Always got to watch out for that spinning back elbow. Should be a good fight. Who are you taking in this one?
Yeah, I just don't trust Ricardo Ramos right now. I just don't trust him to come in there and stick to the game plan to beat Charles Jourdain. Like, if he wants to beat Jourdain, I think he's going to have to come in and wrestle right off the bat, and really control him and stick to that, and not get up there in these wild exchanges or try to strike with Jourdain. I think that Jourdain's striking is really good, and I was thinking maybe I'm giving him too much credit, because he is looking good against guys like Kron Gracie, who is not a striker in the least bit. But then you go back a little bit further, and he's really piecing up guys like Andre Ewell, even against Shane Burgos. Like, he outlanded him 113-42 in strikes. I mean, the guy can strike with the best of them, even against Nathaniel Wood. Like, he clearly lost the fight, got taken down 5 times, but the strikes were somewhat close when they were standing. Nathaniel Wood landing the bigger shots, but Jourdain's volume is there. He's not this big power knockout puncher, but he's slick enough to do damage, and he's slick enough to really stay active at all times when this fight's on the feet. So I'm going to pick Jourdain to get the win, just because, like I said, I don't trust Ramos. But if Ramos comes in and takes Jourdain down, that's a realistic path to victory for him. But at the same time, Jourdain's also pretty slick with the submissions and off his back. He'll always be working for stuff, or even using some different submission attempts to get back to his feet and just keep it standing. So I do think Jourdain wins this fight. I do think if it does stay on the feet, even though Ramos shouldn't engage in that brawling style with Jourdain, I do think it could be fireworks and a lot of fun.
It's a fun fight. I do have to say, for Ricardo Ramos, the weight miss is like a concern for me. I'm like, how do you miss weight by 8 pounds when you were once a 135 and now you're at 145 and you still miss weight by 8 pounds? It's super weird. So I don't know where he's at in his career to be like, I don't know if he's still motivated or what went wrong there, but it's very concerning. If I'm looking at Charles Jourdain, he's somewhat of a fan favorite. A lot of people like him. I like him. He's fun to watch. And then the fight against Kron, I would expect his takedown defense to be pretty good right now after preparing for Kron Gracie. And I do think if Ricardo Ramos wants to win this fight, I think he's got to mix in some takedowns, because he hasn't been the highest volume striker on the feet. He's got a negative strike differential. Charles Jourdain, pretty positive one, sitting at 5.78 landed compared to 4.3 absorbed. So he can put a lot on you, and that usually just looks better to the judges. So I like Charles Jourdain in this one. He's never been knocked out either. Knock on wood that he doesn't. He could catch a spinning back elbow, and I completely jinxed it. But I'm going to go with him. I think he just outvolumes him on the feet. He should be able to stuff takedowns. And if he does get taken to the ground, it's not like he's a fish out of water or anything. So I like him. I'll take him for the pick. Bantamweight bout here. Miles Johns coming in at plus 145 against Dan Argueta, sitting at minus 175. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 160 for the over, plus 130 for the under. Dan Argueta, we were both on him his last time out against Ronnie Lawrence, and should have had the win, or at least had him in a great position until Keith Peterson stepped in, and then it's overturned to a no contest. But it looked like a great performance for him, because he came in there as an underdog against Ronnie Lawrence, and was winning the wrestling exchanges. We kind of called that out because he's got a good wrestling background himself. And he was a 145er, moving down to 135. Pretty jacked dude for 135. Pretty strong dude. He looked good in his debut. I mean, he was a big underdog against Damon Jackson, but he hung in there against Damon Jackson and really surprised some guys. Eventually makes the move down to 135. Miles Johns, he's been off for a bit. His last fight was November of 2022 when he got a win. And then he had a fight against Raoni Barcelo scheduled. He had to pull out of that with an injury. That was in June. And now he's back here trying to get a fight against Dan Argueta. So for him, he's 4-2 in the UFC. He's been moving around camps because of the Krause situation, which is so crazy that was, I mean, it's coming up on like almost a year, that the whole Krause situation. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this one goes. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I like Dan Argueta, and you know, he watches Instagram, and you look at what he's doing in his training. Like, this dude's an animal. He's jacked to no end. He's always working hard. He seems like he's super motivated to come in and start racking up wins in the UFC because, you know, right now he's 1-1-1. You know, he should be 2-1, and we were both on him, like you said, against Ronnie Lawrence, and he showed against Ronnie Lawrence that wrestling pedigree, and you know, he's good in the scramble as well. He's always going to fight to get dominant position. And against Miles John, I think he's going to have to. He's going to have to go in with that style of game plan because you look at John's last finish win against Anderson Dos Santos, he chewed the legs up, and it made it hard for Anderson Dos Santos to really do anything. And Miles John went on to outstrike him 80-32 before getting the round 3 finish. So Miles John has that style on the feet that could really wear on you. Like, he's pretty aggressive. He swings hard. He's got a good overhand right. But when you're a wrestler and you need that lead leg to really be explosive and get takedowns, Miles John's pretty good at taking that weapon away, or taking that away from you, taking that explosiveness with the kicks. I think Miles John's going to have to come in here and do that, and his takedown defense is going to have to remain good because, you know, Dan the Determined will come in and look to get it to the ground. But Miles John has 92% takedown defense. Now, he's not really fighting the highest level wrestlers in the UFC yet, and that 92% is just out of his UFC fights. So I think this will be his first true test against a guy who has the ability to take him down, and we'll see how he responds and how he works back to his feet if he's able to. But I really did like what I saw out of Dan Argueta in his last fight against Ronnie Lawrence. He's going to be my pick, but I just hope the gas doesn't go, because he fights, you know, he burns pretty hot there early, and if he slows down and gets tired going into the later rounds here, I think Miles John will have some in the tank, and he might make him pay for that on the feet.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. I like Dan Argueta in this fight too. He's got to have success with the wrestling. If he doesn't, I don't think Miles Johnson's crazy good on the feet, but I do think, you know, once your plan A fails, how do you respond to that? For Dan Argueta, if you can't get the takedowns, I'm interested to see how he looks, because he's still fairly green in the UFC. Miles John's had 6 fights. The losses aren't to anybody bad. I mean, Castaneda and Mario Batista, like, those are 2 pretty solid guys. So, I mean, he's definitely there. He's definitely a live dog, I would say. But yeah, for the pick, it's going to be Dan Argueta for me. Welterweight bout. Tim Means back in action, coming in at plus 140 against Andre Fialho, sitting at minus 170, over under 1.5 rounds, minus 140 for the over, plus 110 for the under. Both men 2-3 in their last 5. Somebody's got to pick up a win. Tim Means nearly 40 years old. Andre Fialho nearly 30. The last time out for him was yet again another knockout loss for Andre Fialho. It's now 3 in a row. He's been knocked out in either the second or third round. It was Joaquin Buckley last time, Salikov before that, Jake Matthews before that. Came into the UFC on that short notice fight against Michel Pereira. Gave him a good fight, back-to-back wins, and then it's been 3-fight losing streak in a row. It's just been very clear over the past 3 fights. Like, he's live in round 1, and then just eventually falls apart as it goes into the second and third round. I mean, the gas tank isn't great, but it almost just seems like he loses some type of ability to dodge a punch, take a punch, he just doesn't take it very well. Tim Means, not the biggest power puncher. So it's probably why you're looking at Fialho as the favorite there. But he's been around for a long time, and he's got a pretty good significant strike ratio. Even in his last few fights, like he's still able to put up some volume on him. But then he's been submitted in 2 of his last 3 losses. So I don't know if Fialho is going to mix in a submission. I doubt it. But I mean, Tim Means, he's not like the worst guy on the feet. If he could take a punch from Fialho, I think he's somewhat live in this one. What are you thinking?
I think he's live too. I really do. I mean, he hasn't been knocked out since 2019 against Nico Price. And that's actually the only knockout loss in his long UFC career. I mean, when his downfall is the ground. I mean, he gets subbed by a lot of guys, but Fialho, I don't think he's ever attempted a takedown in the UFC, never attempted a submission in the UFC. I mean, he wants to stand and bang. The one thing, though, with Tim Means is he is getting up there towards 40 years old. He's taken a lot of damage in fights. Fialho does hit harder than, a lot of Tim Means' last, I don't even want to, maybe 3 opponents. Both guys on 3-fight losing streaks. The one thing that sticks out to me, though, from Tim Means is, guys that are kind of that brawling hard hitters, like sometimes he's so long that he makes it tough for him to hit him, and he'll counter and he'll use that jab really well. Like I look at the Mike Perry fight, which was during COVID, like it wasn't that long ago. He pieced up Mike Perry. I mean, Mike Perry now, the guy that's the bare knuckle legend, the guy that likes to brawl in there, like he pieced him up and outlanded him 128-64. So like you said, though, not a lot of power on the feet. Just pretty technical and really long with his punches, which, if Fialho can't go out there and get a first-round finish or even a second-round finish, like Tim Means might rack it up in the 3rd round because he's durable. He'll be there at the end of the fight. So I'd honestly be really interested to see what a Tim Means round 3 finish line looked like because Tim Means isn't really finishing dudes in a long time. Fialho is on a 3-fight knockout losing streak to good strikers, though. So it makes it interesting. I think Tim Means, though, is live. I just think he's got to be careful early. He's got to get that jab going, and he's just got to outland Fialho because at some point Fialho is going to land some decent shots. He will. But as the fight goes on, if you just keep the volume on him, Fialho tends to break or at least slow down. And if he does that enough, I think it's going to look pretty good to the judges for Tim Means.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Means, I think Tim Means is live, which is like, it's crazy to say that because he just hasn't really looked good. But Fialho at -175,
That's
I mean,
disgusting.
you're probably better off just taking like round 1 KO, or round 2 KO maybe. But like, just wouldn't trust him past round 1 because I mean, even Tim Means is able to put up good numbers in round 1. Like he outstruck Alex Morono's last time out in round 1, landed 32-18. Fialho, not a volume puncher by any means. Like you look at his significant strike ratio, it's pretty bad. Like he lands 3 per minute, absorbs over 5.5. So what are the odds he wins a decision? Like not very likely. Probably better off just taking him round 1 KO and searching for that. So I'm going to go with Tim Means for the pick because I do think, he's been very durable throughout his career too. So knock on wood for that. He's going to be my pick. That's where I'm at.
Look, I mean, Tim Means in his last 3 losses, though, has landed more than 1 takedown on all those guys, too. So that's in his back pocket. Like, if he does get rocked with a big shot or something, like, he has the ability to take Fialho down, I believe. And if he does that, that's just wearing on the gas tank of Fialho. So, like you said, man, he's a live dog. I like it. I like it a lot. I'll take him for the pick, too. I like the Dirty Bird.
The Dirty Bird. Get back on track, kid. Middleweight bout here, Jacob the Mamba Malkoun coming in at -450. Cody Brundage sitting at +325. Over under 1.5 rounds, -250 for the over, +200 for the under. Cody Brundage 2-3 in his last 5. Might have been one of the worst performances I have seen in recent memory. His last time out against Cedricus Dumas in a fight where he landed. What was the total on it? 3 significant strikes in 3 rounds. So that's 1 per round for Jacob Malkoun. Big favorite coming into this one. don't know if I could trust it that much because it's not like he has some great abilities. I mean, he's a wrestler, doesn't have a lot of finishing ability on the ground, but he does have a great gas tank. He's able to chain wrestle you and just pick you up, put you down. Lands 7.46 takedowns per 15 minutes. So he can rack them up. And that's really what he wants to do. He wants to wear you down early and just be able to pick you up and put you down and tire you out, just outwork you. That's what he's able to do. So he could probably do that in this one. But he's live for getting knocked out in the first because Cody Brundage will throw some heavy hands early, and he's been able to land that. I mean, he's got a first-round knockout against Tresean Gore and a first-round submission by guillotine against Dolce Lungiambula. The man Cody Brundage loves to jump guillotine, so usually never works out, but sometimes it does. He tried it on Rodolfo Fierro. Probably one of the worst decisions I've ever seen to do that. Because are you really going to sub Rodolfo Vieira by guillotine? Probably not. Yeah, this is just a greasy fight. What are you thinking?
Yeah, a couple things worry me for Cody Brundage. One is that this is on shorter notice. I feel like a lot of his fights are for some reason. I don't know if I'm just imagining that or if he's taking a lot of short notice fights and it always bites him in the ass. Huh?
He's trying to be a company guy, I think.
Yeah. But even against like Olazechek, he landed 0 strikes in that fight before getting knocked out. And, he had 3 takedowns in that fight. And then Olazechek from the top just started landing shots and put him down. And the other thing I worry about is he's with a really good camp and a really good coach in Mark Montoya. And you would expect adjustments to be made. But once he gets in the octagon, it's like he doesn't. It's like anything he's been working on or the adjustments he should have been making just aren't there. Like he doesn't show them at all. So that worries me because these 3-fight losing streak, you'd think something would change, but it's just the same old Cody Brundage. Like you said, jump guillotine, make bad decisions, end up in, if you're in a dominant position, he's pretty easily reversed into a bad one. And Cedriquez Dumas, I thought he'd go in there and have a lot of success early in the fight, and he just didn't. He just couldn't. So coming in here against Malkoun, who's, got the grappling credentials and the wrestling's off the charts, like this dude is relentlessly taking down guys 9 times in a fight against Maximov, 7 times against Brendan Allen, even though he lost, 6 times against AJ Dobson. Like this dude will take you down. So that scares me for Brundage as well. He does swing hard though. Like you said, if you are playing Cody Brundage, you might as well do it in the first round and you're going to get a better price. And if it goes past the first, Malkoun's, I think, is just going to maul him and make it pretty ugly for the last 2 rounds here. So yeah, for my pick, I'm sticking with Malkoun. Not much faith in Cody Brundage here, but he's definitely live early with a big right hand.
I think you're better off playing it live because you'll know after the first round who's going to win this fight. Like if Malkoun's landing takedowns and Brundage isn't really doing well, or if he's just making dumb mistakes again, Malkoun's going to win. But Brundage is live in the first round because he landed a knockdown on Rodolfo Vieira too. He's got the first round knockout to Tresean Gore, like I said. And one of Malkoun's losses is an 18-second knockout to Phil Haas in round 1. So he doesn't have he has probably really bad striking. Like Jacob Malkoun has really bad striking, but he just never really has to use it. So yeah, I would expect him to get a win here if he can extend it into second and third round and just rack up takedowns. But Brundage is live in the first. Malkoun will be my pick, but just, beware. Probably better off taking it live. Heavyweight bout here. Muhammad Usman coming in at -155 against Jake Collier, coming in at +125. The man who used to fight at middleweight is back in action. Over under 1.5 rounds. The over -225. The under +185. Muhammad Usman 4-1 in his last 5. Fought on the Ultimate Fighter. Got a knockout against Zach Pauga in the Ultimate Fighter finale. So he won the Ultimate Fighter, and then his first fight in the UFC is a win to Junior Tafa by decision. But it is probably one of the worst fights I've ever seen or ever watched. Wouldn't even call it a fight. It was a lay and pray. Jake Collier, he's in some exciting fights. I'm not going to lie. I mean, for a heavyweight, he's got some exciting moments, especially getting ground and pounded out by Chris Barnett. That was exciting. But 1-4 in his last 5. That one win to the one and only Chase Sherman by round 1 rear naked choke. This is some greasy heavyweight spots. Who are you liking in this one?
Oh man, this is just greasy. You know, Jake Collier, you look at his record, he's in the UFC, I think 13 or 14 fights. He's never won 2 fights in a row. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's losing to Andrei Arlovsky, Chris Barnett, Budai, and then Muhammad Usman. You know, he's on a little bit of a streak. First 2 wins in the UFC, knocks out Pauga, beats Junior Tafa. Just able to eliminate, like in the Tafa fight, he's able to eliminate what Tafa does well, which was the kickboxing and the striking. Just using that wrestling and his strength. Like, this dude's a massive guy. He's super strong. He's pretty athletic. Like, he's kind of stiff, but you can tell, like, he's not a 265 flabby heavyweight. Like, this dude's solid muscle, and he's strong, and he's pretty explosive. So for Collier, I wish he had some pop and some power in his hands, because if he did, it'd make it a lot more interesting. However, I think he's going to be a tad slower. I think if Usman gets his hands around him, like, he's going to go to the ground, and Usman is so heavy on top. I honestly see this fight being kind of boring, kind of like the Tafa fight. Only I don't see Jake Collier really finding the chin of Usman and doing serious damage like Tafa seemed to do with a couple of his shots. So yeah, I mean, this is a heavyweight fight, though, that is not the highest level, and anything can happen, I guess. I just see Usman's wrestling being too much. I think he is pretty good with the cardio for being that big of a dude as well. Or at least I think he's going to be better than Collier after Collier's trying to stuff all these takedowns.
Yeah, I don't think I could take Usman at chalk. That's the thing. Just because, like we've talked about multiple times on the show, it just comes down to damage, and Muhammad Usman doesn't land anything. He literally lands less than 1 significant strike per minute. Like, he has landed 7 against Junior Tafa throughout 15 minutes. Landed 12 against Zach Pauga. And he got outlanded by Zach Pauga by 20 significant strikes in a fight that he won. Knocked him out. I just don't think he has anything on the feet. Like, sure, he might have some power, but Jake Collier does have in his back pocket, he's got some volume. Like, if he's on the feet, like, he lands 5.81 significant strikes per minute. Now, how hard is that? I don't know. But he does have 67% takedown defense. Never been taken down in the heavyweight division. So coming into this one, I'm like, I think it's dog or pass to me. I don't think Muhammad Usman is like anything like his brother. You'll see the name. You'll see his last fight, see that he won. I don't think Junior Tafa has any get-up game whatsoever. He has a 15% takedown accuracy, Muhammad Usman. It's not like he's got great wrestling. He's just able to, if he gets you there, he's able to hold you there. I'm going to go with Jake Collier for this one. I don't like it. I do think he should have won the fight against Arlovsky. So, I mean, that should have been a win. He should be 2-3 in his last 5. But either way, this is greasy heavyweights. I think you're better off just going with the underdog and hoping that he can stuff takedowns. I'm going to go with Collier for the pick for me. Strawweight bout here, Mizuki Inoue coming in up minus 310 against Hannah Goldy, sit at plus 235. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 300 for the over, plus 225 or the under. Hannah Goldy back in action. She's making the move down to strawweight. Her last time out was against Molly McCann. She got knocked out in the first round by a spinning back elbow and a couple combos to put her out. Hasn't had the best UFC career. She is 2-3 in the UFC, and the only wins are, or she's 1-3 in the UFC. My bad. One was a win on Contender Series. The only win in the UFC is Emily Whitmire, who was 4-4 at the time. So she's scraping the bottom of the barrel. The loss to Molly McCann ages pretty bad at this point. That's probably why you see her as an underdog in this one. But she is making the move down, so might be a little bit of a rebirth for her. Mizuki Inoue sitting at minus 310 is a little tough to get behind just because this is women's MMA and who the hell knows. But a Sarah Longo fighter, her last time she fought was 2020. been 3 years since she fought ever. I don't know what she's going to look like. I would expect some improvements, but I don't know if she's really been dialed in like that. In the UFC, she's 1-1. The loss is to Amanda Lemos. The win is a split decision to Wu Yanan. -310. Are you willing to take that or not?
Definitely not in women's MMA in general, and especially not off a 3-year layoff. Like, that's a long time. And Hannah Goldy, she's not the best fighter in the world, but what she does have is some volume on the feet. She's strong. She gets hit a little bit, but I just don't see her having to worry about that as much with Mizuki, like compared to a Molly McCann, who's going to come forward and look to put your lights out. Like, I think where Goldie's going to struggle is if this fight hits the mat, where Mizuki's got most of her wins come by submission, and she's going in there and getting split decisions with girls like Verna Jandaroba and Invicta, and another good grappler there. Like, she shows that she's on that level with girls like that. However, if she's not able to get the fight to the ground, I think she'll struggle, especially off of a 3-year layoff. Like, that's 3 years off, you come in and you get your first couple of takedowns stuffed. Like, that's a big blow to your, mentality. It's a big blow probably to your gas tank, not having that octagon, experience in the last couple of years. Her cardio better be in check. Hannah Goldy, 55% takedown defense, but she's strong enough to where she can stuff them against girls. It's hard to pick, man, because like, I don't want to take Hannah Goldy because I don't trust her, but at the same time, like, this price is ridiculous, and it's women's MMA. We've seen this story 100 times. We see it all the time, and I always regret not taking the big women's underdogs because they seem to cash a lot more than these big favorites do. So for the pick, it's hard to pick one, honestly. I'm going to go with Hannah Goldy. I just, she fought last year. She's fighting better competition. Outside of I guess Mizuki's last fight in Lemos, but yeah, I don't know. Hannah Goldy, I'm gonna look for her to stuff some takedowns and just put the volume on her.
Yeah, this is just the greasiest fight. If you're like heavily invested in this fight, you need some help because this is a really greasy
call
one.
That number.
Yeah. I mean, Mizuki is only 29 years of age. She's been a professional fighter since 2010. Like, she started fighting when she was like 16 years old. So she's got a lot of experience. She's got a lot of high level experience too. Even before she even made it to the UFC, you mentioned Verna Jandaroba. She's also fought Alexa Grasso and Karolina Kowalkiewicz in Invicta. So maybe that'll help her out. But either way, 3-year layoff, sitting at -310. Not really sure what she's been up to. Women's MMA. It's probably one you want to stay away from, or just take the dog on Hannah Goldy. Maybe she makes a little rebirth going down. She's a pretty strong and physical looking girl. So there's some hope there. For the pick, I'm going to go with Mizuki anyway. I think she's just more skilled. Like, Hannah Goldy doesn't jump off the board as far as skills go when I watch her fight. So I'll take Mizuki, but yeah, just probably stay away from that one. First fight of the night, Tamiris Vidal coming in at -230 against Montserrat Rendon, sitting at +190. Over under 2.5 rounds, -245 for the over, +205 for the under. Undefeated for Rendon, making her debut at 34 years of age, 5'8". She's got a good frame on her. Tamiris Vidal, back in action, 25 years of age for her, 7-1 in her professional career. Greasy bantamweight fight. Another women's MMA fight. Watching Montserrat Rendon film, it's like nothing really jumps off the board. Split decision her last time out in Invicta. She's got a loss to Juliana Miller in a grappling competition. Juliana Miller, decent grappler, but not a great fighter if you've watched her fights. A lot of decisions for Montserrat Rendon and a couple splits. So I don't know. There's not like a ton to get behind there. But Tamiris Vidal won her debut against Ramona Pascual. Round 1 flying knee to the liver, which was like not even sure how that happened, but it happened. Her only loss is to Carol Hosa in 2019, who's a decent fighter. So she got wins over Martina Jindrova. Eileen Perez was the illegal knee, so it was a win by DQ. I don't know. I mean, this is just disgusting. women's bantamweights. We already know bantamweight division's not great. This is not the highest level of the women's bantamweight division, so probably one you'll want to lay off or just look for some kind of prop. If you see some value, are you seeing any value in this one? I need to know.
No, I'm really not. I mean, Montserrat, you look at her, she's pretty jacked and she's pretty athletic looking. Yeah, for sure. And when you watch her strike, like she doesn't hold the most power, but she's active and she is athletic. You can tell. The one downfall though I see with her striking and then coming in and fighting a UFC level girl, like even if you can even call Vidal that a UFC level talent, is that she kind of crashes in with the strikes at time and gets those like kind of wild combinations with her chin straight up. And I could see Vidal capitalizing and get it to the ground. And if she gets it to the ground, I think she'll have a chance to submit her here. But other than that, it's just I really haven't seen enough of either girl at this level to really be confident in picking one way or the other. I would think Vidal is the more dangerous fighter. I mean, Montserrat's got all decision victories, a couple splits, so she's in close fight with girls in there. And I'd really like to see a girl who's out there pushing the pace with the urgency to get a finish in there. Besides, kind of point fighting till the end. So for that reason, I'm going to take the more dangerous fighter in Vidal here. This is another one to where if you're heavily invested on the betting side of things, you might need to call that number. I do think Vidal probably gets it done, but it's pretty greasy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Vidal as well. Younger fighter. She's been in the UFC, or at least she's fought at the UFC level before. Granted, it was Ramona Pascual. It's probably not UFC level, but at least she got her out of there in round 1. So there's that. The finishing ability, like you said, is more present with Tamires Vidal. She'll be my pick. But we'll keep an eye on it throughout the week. Maybe look for some type of prop and throw it in at the bets. But those are the picks for UFC Vegas 79. If you want the bets, once again, link is in the description to join the Double Leg Premium, or you can wait till Friday. You can get the instant download when it is available. Stay up to date at the Double Leg on Instagram for that, and you'll be notified. Hit the sub button for us here if you enjoyed the video. If you got any value from it, drop a like as well. If you want to follow us on the medias, at HeyJaiPicks for me, where can they find you?
All social medias at the Parlay MMA.
All right, let's hope to have a good weekend. Once again, we got Contender Series tomorrow, but then we got this Apex card and then a week off. So hopefully we can cash in and go into the week off on a little bit of a hot streak. So the Double Leg here, signing out. We'll see you in the next video.